Okay. 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 Oh my god. This lens review has been delayed by a week because I was in Minnesota. Bow chicka bow wow. The Fujifilm 100-400mm 45-56. Made in Japan, by the way. Rather inexpensive lens at $1,900. Obviously, this is to cover an image circle for a crop sensor, APS-C. Now, I'm not going to be reviewing this lens, but the one thing that everybody wanted me to compare it to was the 200-500 Nikkor. Yeah, made at breakneck speed in China. Japan, China. $1,400 and $500 more. Let's just get this out of the way first, okay, before I review the 100-400. But I am reviewing it by comparing it against this that everybody wanted me to compare it to. Obviously, this is a huge, obnoxious beast. The notion of actually packing this on your side, no way, no how. Same thing with the 100-400 Fuji. You're going to actually have to sling the camera off the tripod or monopod mount. You couldn't sling it off of the camera. It would ruin your mount. That goes without saying. However, this is a much smaller lens. It is a 4.5 to 5.6. The 200-500 is a fixed 5.6. The vibration reduction on the 200-500 is far superior to the 100-400. Not that it's bad on the 100-400. Image rendition is better on the 200-500 across the board than the Fujifilm 100-400. Nikon mastered huge glass and ultra-wide primes quite a long time ago. Fujifilm has not. Did I still buy this lens? Absolutely. I paid my own money for this lens. It was, however, the last Fujifilm lens for me to buy. The only Fujifilm lens I don't have is the 18mm, which sucks. And Fujifilm basically kind of admits that it's no good because they're coming out with a second version of it. So apparently I'm pretty accurate on, it's like, why don't you own the 18mm? It's not that bad. It's like, yeah, it is that bad. And now Fujifilm's coming out with a second version of it. So the other issue, obviously, with the 200-500 is since it is made at breakneck speed in China, the sample variation for many users has been not the best in the world. It's been pretty fine, but there have been a lot of people get a 200-500 and take it home and go, what the hell's wrong with this damn thing? And finds out they got a bad sample of it and they had to take it back. Sometimes more than once, like here's another bad sample. And you're not going to encounter that out of the 100-400 Fuji. For $500 more, you're getting a better built lens, made in Japan, with very tight tolerances on build quality. Much smaller production run, obviously so. Both of these lenses zoom out. They're not not internal zoom lenses, so this is as far as it extends. Obviously, this is the snap-on lens hood, 77mm filter, but those are boring specs. You don't know this sort of stuff. I am spoiled on the huge Nikon glass that I have, which is the reason why this was basically the last lens for me. I just don't use the Fujifilm X-T2 for this sort of stuff. However, this lens does fulfill a special niche that I really don't have with the Nikon, unless you're talking about the really compact 300mm f4, which is an insanely expensive lens, which I also happen to have. What would I use this lens for? Event photography outdoors. Specifically, the autofocus is amazing, so it'd be great for photojournalism, outdoor event photography. Some sports, especially in tight quarters where you're not wanting to swing a huge glass on a monopod, like with this sucker. I actually have to have a special rig to sling this thing. It's a monopod that's slung off the monopod. It's my own creation and it works beautifully, but I don't have to do that with this. All I have to do is just keep a black rapid, it's called a fastener link on here to attach to my camera slings. It's got twin linear motors, so there's no gears to break on the autofocus system on this. It is compact, but like I said, it is a DX sensor telephoto zoom lens, unlike this, which is actually made for FX. However, everybody that owns this lens uses it on a crop sensor Nikon D500 or other crop sensor camera. So the sample variation is tighter since Japanese made. Production run is obviously a lot lower than compared to the Nikon. But this is not about this lens, but a lot of people wanted me to compare it to its Nikon equivalent, so I'm done with that. Value, actually, I thought about these things before actually making a firm statement on this. Value, 7 out of 10. I know it's Japanese, and I know Japanese build, and I know its sample variation is really tight, but still the value is a 7 out of 10 at 1,900 bucks. It's a little high, especially for you know, a 5.6 zoom lens. Build quality 9 out of 10. Rendering against other super zoom telephotos, which I'm spoiled on, would be about a 7 out of 10. So it ranks right around the midpoint as opposed to other telephoto zooms the same range. Other 100-400s, I have used actually the Canon equivalent of this. VR 7 out of 10. It's nowhere near as good as the 200-500, but one of the reasons it's so good on 200-500 is because it's so bloody heavy. Larger mass actually takes more force to actually move it out of position, so heavier things are easier to balance. That's why, partially the reason why the VR on this obnoxious beast is a lot better. Overall, the 100-400 gets an 8 out of 10. As I mentioned in a prior video, a lot of people that were bitching about this lens for use on their Fuji are using it incorrectly. They're using it in IS mode 1, which means that the VR is always on, and VR actually, contrary to what you think as far as removing shake, actually induce shake. So if you're shooting above 1/100th of a second, basically you should not be shooting in VR mode, IS mode 1 on the camera. Go in your menu system on your Fuji. It's in page 2, menu system on your X-T2 Fuji. Okay, you go over to AF/MF settings, and it's on, no, it's on page 3. IS mode, which you obviously have to have VR lens. It's IS mode on page 3 of your shooting settings, and stick that in IS mode 2, which means that not at half press, but at full press the IS kicks in at faster shutter speeds, which is what you should be using this lens for. People that actually complain about missed shots, like, well, you know, my camera beeped in AFS mode, and you know, I continue to fire and shoot, and my picture came out blurry. And it's like, what IS mode are you in? Well, I'm IS mode 1. It's like, yeah, you shouldn't be there. Because everybody that's using this lens, you know, 99% of the time are shooting something outdoors, bright and sunny or moderately sunny, and, you know, they're hand holding it at 100th of a second or above, you know, almost always. And they've left the IS mode in default. So it's not the lens's fault, it's your fault. It's really partially also, I hate to say it, Fujifilm's fault, because Fujifilm there should be a little slip that comes with this damn lens from Fujifilm. Are you listening, Fuji? This says on here, it's like, when you stick this lens on your Fujifilm camera, stick it in IS mode 2 if you're going to be shooting above, say, 1/80th of a second. Period. Fujifilm, you need to stick, because that's what people are returning. It's like, I keep hitting autofocus track and my camera beeps and I take a picture of a little birdie and like all the shots are coming out blurry. It's like, what IS mode are you in? I'm in IS mode. Well, yeah, take it out of that. That's the reason why. That is the reason why. So, the people that are complaining about this lens, to me, it's like, I hear you're going to review the Fujifilm 100-4, and I have this issue where my birds are out of focus. That's what you're doing wrong. That was important to actually state in this video. The only other issue with this is that Fujifilm, I love Fujifilm to death. Fujifilm is not a high, there's 3 things that Nikon dominates Fujifilm on. High ISO performance, it's just Nikon owns it. Huge glass and buffer. So when you have a slower lens like this, say at 400 millimeters, 5.6, the fact that if it's late at night and you're doing an event, you know, the sun is already set, there's plenty of ample light, but you got to crank up the ISO. On a 5.6 lens like this, that means that with this slower lens and Fujifilm's not so hot high ISO performance, that you're not going to be super happy. You'll be less than super happy. So that's the only other issue to consider on this lens, is that, you know, like this 200-500, man, I can crank the ISO up 20,000 on the Nikon D500. You know, just, I could shoot crap that I can't even see, which is stupid. What kind of photographer takes pictures of crap he can't see? But I could actually do that with this lens and a D500, for example. But that's alright, there's no such thing as a perfect camera. I bought this lens for a reason. And it actually fills a niche that many of my other huge Nikon glass does not fill. So it depends on what the hell you're going to use it for. Also depends on what you're used to. I'm spoiled on the Nikon's high ISO performance, and I'm also spoiled on other glass. Man, I said $1,400. You know, the VR on this is incredible. The rendition is better. On a scale of 1 to 10, considering it's a super zoom telephoto, I mean, this ranks right up there at a 9.5 in that category. Not compared to a prime lens, but compared to other super zoom telephotos, this is right at the freaking top. And it's cheaply made. Well, it's not that cheaply made, but I mean, it is cheaply made in China for $1,400. And this is, there is sample variation issues on this. Like, you know, you better pray you get a good sample of this lens. And this is $2,000 basically, so it's $500 more. It's not always the case that you get what you pay for. So, where is this lens worse? The speed of it, not the quality construction. The ISO combined with the slow speed of the lens itself, not autofocus, meaning 4.5 to 5.6. Not so happy. The value, $2,000, $1,900, close enough. After taxes, depending where you live, is $2,000, right? Yeah, well, it is made in Japan, and it is made really low production run. So, is it worth $1,900? It is. Japan, slowly made. You know you're going to get a good sample copy. Not that I'm sure that one bad one doesn't exist out there. I'm sure that it does, or maybe probably more than one. But also the rendering. So the price is a little high, and the rendering is slightly less than what I'm used to. Because that's just only because I'm spoiled on a huge Nikon glass. Because Nikon's dominated that arena, for decades now. And Fuji, this is their first run out on this type of lens. So, like I said, overall, like really an 8.5, 8.5 out of 10 on the 100 to 400. I do like it a lot. Like I said, all those people that are reporting focus lock issues, you're using it wrong. Stick it in IS mode 2. 1, 2. So, that's it. I had to buy this lens with my own money. I'm not returning it. I've had it far too long to return it anyway. I'm keeping it. I do like it a lot, and it does fill a niche that my other lenses don't fill. So I do like it. No such thing as perfect lens, no such thing as a perfect camera. If you like these videos, you can drop me a buck or two, because God knows I'm not sponsored by anybody. Nobody has their hand up my backside to say one thing one way or the other. You feel me, girlfriend? So, you can tell me to jump off a cliff, whatever makes you happy. A small donation is nice, because I do work my butt off and answer tons of emails and comments and even phone calls now. And not really making any money making these videos. I can assure you of that right now. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this review of the FUJIFILM 100-400mm 4556. Bye. Bum, ba-dum, bum. Bum, ba-dum, bum, 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 bum.